the ant who opened a bakery. Once upon a time, in a vibrant meadow filled with wildflowers and tall waving grasses, there lived a little ant named Andy. Andy was not like the other ants in his bustling colony. While his brothers and sisters marched in long lines, carrying crumbs and seeds back to their anthill, Andy spent his days dreaming about the comforting smell of fresh bread and the delicious taste of sweet pastries. As the sun rose and painted the meadow in soft golden light, Andy would often sit near the entrance of the anthill, watching the other insects rush by. He admired the honeybees, who worked together to make golden honey, and the butterflies, who fluttered from one flower to another, sipping nectar. It seemed that everyone had a special skill or something wonderful to share. Andy wished he could find his own gift, something that would make him unique. One bright morning, as Andy wandered past a patch of clover, he caught a whiff of something incredible, a warm, yeasty aroma that made his stomach rumble. He followed the scent and soon discovered a picnic blanket spread out beneath an old oak tree. On the blanket rested a loaf of bread, some cookies, and a slice of cake. Andy was fascinated. He watched as a family of humans laughed and shared their treats, breaking off pieces of bread and passing around cookies. Andy crept closer, his tiny heart pounding with excitement. When the family packed up and left, they forgot a single crumb, a small, golden piece of bread. Andy scurried over and nibbled a corner. The taste was amazing, soft, fluffy, a little sweet, and wonderfully comforting. At that moment, Andy had an idea that would change his life forever. "I want to make bread too," he exclaimed to himself. "I want my friends and family to taste this deliciousness." Andy hurried back to the anthill and shared his idea with his best friend, Annie, a clever and curious ant with a big heart. "Bread," Annie said, her eyes wide with wonder. "But ants don't bake bread. We gather food, we store it, but we've never baked anything." "That's exactly why I want to try," Andy replied eagerly. "Maybe I can learn, and then we'll have something new and special for everyone." Annie thought for a moment. "Well, if anyone can do it, it's you, Andy. I'll help however I can." The next day, Andy set out to learn the secrets of baking. He visited the wise old spider who lived in the corner of the barn. The spider, named Webster, had watched humans for years and knew a little about their ways. "Baking, you say?" Webster mused, stroking his silvery beard. "Humans use flour, water, yeast, and sometimes sugar and salt. They mix these together and bake them in an oven." Andy's eyes sparkled. "But where can I find these things?" Webster chuckled. "You'll have to look carefully, little ant. Flour can be found in the tiniest crumbs from the humans' picnics. Water, you know where to find. As for yeast, you might find it on the skin of fruit or in the air. Sugar and salt are tricky, but a determined ant like you might just find them." With that, Andy and Annie set out on their quest. They scoured the meadow for crumbs of bread and cake, collecting bits of flour and sugar. At the edge of the forest, they discovered wild berries covered with a soft white dust. Yeast. They gathered water from the dew on morning leaves and even found a pinch of salt from the humans' discarded pretzel. Now they needed a place to bake. Andy remembered the old acorn shell near the anthill, a perfect tiny oven. With help from their friends, they cleaned it out and lined it with smooth stones to hold the heat. The day of the first bake arrived. Andy was nervous, but Annie encouraged him. They mixed their ingredients in a small, polished walnut shell. Andy added a drop of water, a sprinkle of flour, a pinch of sugar and salt, and a bit of yeast from the berry skins. They stirred and kneaded, working together until the dough felt just right. They placed the dough inside the acorn shell, covered it with a leaf, and waited. The air was filled with anticipation. Slowly, a warm, comforting aroma drifted through the anthill. Ants gathered around, curious and excited. When Andy finally uncovered the acorn shell, everyone gasped in delight. Inside was a tiny golden loaf of bread, no bigger than a pebble, but smelling heavenly. Andy broke off a piece and tasted it. The bread was soft and flavorful. He offered pieces to Annie and the other ants, who cheered and danced with joy. "This is amazing, Andy," Annie said, her eyes shining. "You did it!" Word spread quickly throughout the meadow. Soon, bees buzzed over to taste the bread, butterflies fluttered by for a crumb, and even the shy field mouse came out to see what the fuss was about. Andy realized he could make more than just bread. With different crumbs and flavors, he could bake cookies, cakes, and rolls. He experimented with wildflowers for new tastes, adding dandelion petals and clover honey. Each new creation was a delight. With Annie's help, Andy decided to open a bakery, a tiny bakery for all the creatures of the meadow. They called it the Crumbly Corner. It was just a small hollow in the side of the anthill, but to Andy, it was a dream come true. Every morning, Andy woke up early to start baking. He and Annie would gather fresh ingredients, mix and knead, and bake treats for everyone. The meadow buzzed with excitement, and animals lined up to taste Andy's latest creations. One day, a big storm swept through the meadow, and food became scarce. The ants and other animals grew worried. But Andy had a plan. He baked extra bread and shared it with everyone, making sure no one went hungry. The creatures of the meadow were grateful, and Andy felt a warm glow in his heart. The bakery became more than just a place for treats. It was a place for friends to gather, share stories, and help each other. Andy's dream had come true, and he had found his special gift. As the seasons changed and the meadow blossomed, the Crumbly Corner flourished. Andy continued to invent new recipes, always eager to surprise his friends. He knew that even the smallest ant could make a big difference with kindness, creativity, and a little bit of courage. And so, Andy the ant, who once dreamed of baking, became the most beloved baker in the whole meadow. His story was told and retold, inspiring others to follow their dreams, no matter how small they might seem. And every morning, as the sun rose over the wildflowers, the sweet smell of fresh bread drifted through the air, reminding everyone that magic can be found in the most unexpected places, even in a tiny bakery run by a very determined ant.